2019. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes of December 10th regular meeting or December 26th end of year meeting?
Move the minutes be accepted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Jane?
Dog control, there was one stray dog picked up and returned to owner, and 105 miles traveled for the town. And I called Donna this afternoon and didn't get an answer, so there's no report.
Okay, thanks, Jane. Highway report, Jeff?
You got a copy of the report. I've been doing a little bit of checking around on the reasons different Bridge New York, culvert and bridge grants didn't get funded. And some of it was not showing clear title to the property. And just by the nature of a town road, it's a road by use. And I don't know if there's ever going to be another round of Bridge New York funding anyways. It was a 2-year deal and it's may or may never come again, but that is something that we got clicked on for demerit, is that it's a road by use. Technically, landowners owned the center line of the road, and they were looking for places that they had clear title to property to put this grant into. So I didn't know if there's anything the board would be interested in pursuing any further. Possibly talking to the landowners and actually deeding. I mean, it's a significant chunk of money you put into these large culverts nowadays. If it's something you'd be interested in, seeing what the first steps are, Don, we could chat about it and see what your thoughts are. And then if there is another round, hopefully that would give us a couple more bonus points towards $300,000-$400,000 in funding.
Well, similarly to the situation with the highway garage, it's a town asset, and if we're unsure whether we own the property or not, I think we probably ought to look into it. Because if we want to do any work on it, like you found out, or anything comes up where we have to make decisions, we should know if we own it or not. So I would suggest Don look into it.
And I don't, even if you do get the project done, flying a little more under the radar with town resources, it give you, I'm going to say like the maintenance rights, of working around it and not having somebody say, hey, you're out of your right of way or something. A defined area that asset would be, spelled very out.
I might ask Jeff, are you I have no idea what this culvert area looks like, but are you making reference primarily to the culvert going wider than the highway itself, so that we need some ability to work at one end of the culvert or the other?
You'll have wind walls, the actual culvert will be longer. The specs have changed as to what for runoffs, guide rails. You gotta.
Okay.
You're not going to get a grant for something just to replace what's there. You got to bring it up to the current standards, and that requires more room.
So we would typically have the right to maintain the roadway if what we're talking about would take it beyond it's 33 feet from the center line, depends on which road sometimes. But if the work that needs to be done goes beyond that width, either title or perhaps an easement,
like a permanent easement,
like a drainage easement that would allow us to do some work there. That's probably what we're looking at.
Right.
So we can look into that, because a high percentage, as you all probably know, a high percentage of town roads, as Jeff said, when you look at your deed or you look at a survey, certainly the vast majority of the time you're going to find that description goes to the center line. subject to the rights of the public to maintain the road. So it's not like you can plant some shrubs out there or something, but technically, you know, you own to the center line, and then we have the right and obligation to maintain the highway. Okay, so.
Thank you.
Okay. Jeff, anything else?
I think we're pretty good.
Okay, thanks.
Don't be more freezing rain.
Okay, recreation, Renee.
Just a quick update. I presented in front of the youth bureau, this evening at 4 o'clock to share what we did last year. The grant process is a 3-year grant now, so this year when we do the grant, it'll be good for 3 consecutive years, so we won't have to reapply every year. There's a grant writing, meeting type thing this Wednesday night. I'll be attending that. Plans to be done for next year. Spoke with Tom Gath, been working on the website with him. Park reservations are coming in. I know Don and I and one of the women from the office had been kind of speaking back and forth in terms of what it would look like this year with the park and the reservations. In terms of people renting it, is there going to be a form, a letter, deposit? Are we going to do the same process?
Have we scheduled a rec committee meeting
We've
yet?
got one towards the end of the month. I've been trying to connect with everyone to see what they're available right now. It looks like the last week of January is looking good.
Last week in January, okay. All right, well, we should probably work on that at that
That
meeting.
and bring it
Yeah.
together, right?
Mm-hmm.
But right now, we are taking reservations, but it does say I have to contact them and confirm with them before anything's set in stone.
Well, we'll just do the best we can until we get that policy worked out. Anything else?
And that's it. At this
Okay.
time.
Thanks. County Legislature, Don?
Okay, we had our first meeting for the year. It's quite productive, actually. We were awarded a grant for a coordinator for the recycling center in landfill, and we accepted that grant. And we accepted, we're going to be posting for a coordinator, which I think is an absolute must if we're going to get this landfill and recycling center straightened out. I think we do need a coordinator. So hopefully that'll pass on the floor. It'll be coming up at our next session here in January.
Don, is that a state grant or a federal grant that runs the state?
It's a state grant.
Okay,
It's a 50% match. We'll have to match it, but I think it's gonna be well worth it. Mr. Zecca has given us our options in his report for us to look over and decide, whether we want to continue with contracting it out or continue with Casella or take it over ourselves. So we'll be looking that over very closely and coming up with a plan, and I think a coordinator can help us out with that also.
as of right now, Casella is still doing it, right?
Until December 31st of 2019.
Okay,
Right. Yeah. So things are looking up. As far as November's bill, we haven't received December's yet. We were $40,000, cost us $40,000 for recycling. Okay. And as far as the landfill, we're about 90,000 below projected amount that we thought we were going to get for 2018. About 90,000 behind on that one. So all total, our deficit probably between the two is going to be about $750,000 between the two, landfill and recycling. So hopefully on down the line, we can improve on these deficits. The other thing I wanted to kind of get cleared up with you, I was told by another legislator that's going around that I voted for a raise for the legislature. That is not true. I've never voted for a raise for the legislature. And you can go back and look at my record if you would like. It's all posted, my voting record. I find it very disingenuous when you're going out to your towns and telling the public that the county is having a tough time meeting their budgets, that they need to cut their departments, cut their budgets by 10%, and all of that. I find it very disingenuous to turn around and vote yourself in a raise. And I've never done that. They're talking about bringing up stipends now in personnel. I'm very much against that also. As I say, I've always looked out for the taxpayer. And I think when you're elected for this position, you're expected to go to your meetings that you're required to go to without having to receive stipends and mileage. And I've never filed for mileage to go to my regular meetings. So I'm very much against that. So I just thought I would lay that out there and clarify
Okay.
that.
Thanks, Don.
I have been asked several times now if I intend to run in 2019. At this point, yes, I do. Plan to go forward. I think it's going to take another term anyway to get this recycling and whatnot straightened out so we don't have these deficits, or at least as large deficits. So I plan to run.
Okay.
Hopefully I'll have your support.
Anything else, Don?
Yeah, I think that's about all I got
Okay.
tonight.
Thanks a lot. Any questions for Don from the board? Okay.
They ever pay back that general from the general fund for the fire they had, the insurance checks? That was put in the general fund. Did you ever pay it back?
Not totally. I mean, there is money that's owed to general fund.
Can we, if there's a question, can we hear the question?
Sure.
I just asked if they ever paid back the insurance check that they got. They put it in the general fund instead of taking it against the recyclable center when they rebuild it. They financed the whole recyclable center, and the insurance check went in the general fund. They keep saying recyclable is losing money. They're giving the figures out, but technically they're not, because they're charging the loan against the recyclable.
Well, that's true this year. They did not make enough to meet their principal and interest payments. Okay.
Yeah, but
So
they
had to
shouldn't
take
have
that-
to. They should take it out of the general fund to make that payment on.
That's what they do, is take it out of the general fund. But if it was solvent, they should not have to be taking it out of the general fund and whacking the taxpayer. They should be able to pay for operational costs. No, they had to pay the principal and interest out of the general fund again this year. They like,
2 years.
Okay.
Before they did.
well, yeah.
Okay. Any questions for Don? Okay. We'll move on here. Jane?
Zoning and code, one building permit issued, 42 miles traveled for the town, 9 building inspections, 11 hours worked, 1 fire inspection, 2 complaint follow-ups, 7 telephone inquiries. The planning board meeting is January 23rd on Wednesday at 7 o'clock. ZBA meeting is February 7th. That's a Thursday at 7:30.
Thanks, Jane. Town historian and Henderson is not here tonight. Jane?
The town clerk collected fees of $153, dispersed $133 to the town of Preble and $20 to New York State Egg and Markets.
We'll start with unfinished business tonight. The first item on unfinished business is the Ed Benedy situation. Don, can you give us a status on that?
Yes. We have a court appearance for February 1st in Binghamton. And hopefully you had a chance to look at what was forwarded to you today. That's the application papers to hold the defendants in contempt of court. It's an initial appearance. I've received word from the court that it's not set up for a hearing. It's just set up for an initial appearance. See if the two fellows show up, what their position is, you know, where we're at. So where it goes from there, I mean, we're asking for a determination by the court that they're in contempt of court for failure to clean things up. And it's, you know, pretty much up to the judge how he wants to move ahead. Give him more time, set it up for a hearing. You know, that's the process.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Thanks,
so
Tom.
that's the next available step, and that's what it's scheduled for.
Okay. And again, this is a situation regarding junk. Next item, Rick Fritz. This is just an update for the board that Rick Fritz's employment status will be that of employee for 2019, and instead of independent contractor. And his compensation will not change. It'll be the same, but he'll just have status of employee. Next item, website. Don, can you give us an update on the website?
The website is up and launched, and we've done some training, and so hopefully now we can keep it up to date and make it the definitive place to get the latest information. So I think Tom did a really nice job for us, and hopefully we'll keep it rolling.
Now you're working on the rec department with Renee. Is there an issue about people signing up for slots for the pavilion over the summer?
No, there shouldn't be. I mean, I think
Okay.
that was more of training and making sure it worked the way that Renee wanted it to work.
Okay.
Yeah,
And so-
Tom and I met.
Yeah.
have it all.
Okay. So it's working. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Thanks, Don.
Yep.
New business. We have an item here called solar exemption, which Jane and I have not run across that topic yet, but Don brought it up. So Don, could you give us a summary or introduction on what this topic means?
Sure, it's been a topic within our office, and it was somewhat prompted by the county adopting a local law that allows for a pilot program versus taxing with respect to a solar, solar panel installation.
Like a solar farm?
It can include a solar farm. It could be a residential use as well. So, not that I have the greatest knowledge of the law on it, but I've been doing some reading today. There's a state statute that basically says a solar installation is exempt from real property tax for up to 15 years. So that's an exemption that's in the law. A municipality can opt out of that exemption.
Okay.
Now, I'm not sure whether it would be done just by resolution or by local law. I'm going to call the Association of Towns tomorrow and see what they got on that. But so I bring it to your attention because maybe you like it that way, maybe you don't. We can do a pilot. Pilot is payment in lieu of taxes. So even if we didn't opt out now, my understanding is a pilot agreement can be entered into with someone who is planning on doing a solar development. So you could still collect the revenue, even equivalent to what you would have collected as a result of tax imposition through a pilot program. It's really a little bit convoluted there, and remember, we're talking about the difference in value for a piece of property between what it was before and what it is after, whether it's a residence or the classic solar farm.
Is there a size value on the size of the solar?
I don't see that. I think it's in the real property tax law, and I think it's there to encourage solar development, obviously, to give people a tax break. but it also gives the respective municipality the option to opt out of that exemption. So you could choose to do that. You could choose not to do that. That's, I guess, a
So
matter of this town's
opting out
policy.
would be more restrictive for solar activity, right? Is the way I'm reading this?
Right. In other words, if it was a solar farm or if it was just residential,
Mm-hmm.
and your tax assessor determined that they reassess that property
Mm-hmm.
for X number of dollars more, and they attribute that X number of dollars to the installation. If you opt out, that's just going to increase their tax bill accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't opt out, whether it increased a lot or a little, that property's assessment might very well go up, but their taxable value would remain the same.
So I guess as a town, we need to decide whether we want to be solar friendly or solar unfriendly.
Right, and it's interesting that existing installations are exempt,
Mm-hmm.
so that, and if an installation is deemed to have started when, like, a lease agreement has been signed. So it's not when a shovel's put in the ground, but it's an earlier point than that. And I don't know of any planned projects here in the town, so I'm not saying that time is of the essence, but just so you're aware, there's that feature in the law too.
Well, I'm thinking of residential. If somebody wants to put panels on their roof, are they going to get penalized through taxes because they're doing that? So we need to think about this, of whether we want to be solar friendly or solar unfriendly in this situation. And is there a time limit when we can opt out or make this decision?
No, that exemption is there unless and until
Okay.
you opt out.
Okay.
And the other thing, you can't, my understanding is, if you choose to opt out, you can't opt out for residences, but not for commercial.
Mm-hmm.
That was my question.
Right.
Okay.
Gotcha. Okay. Everybody understand the situation? Any questions? Okay. All right. We'll have to consider this among the board and see where it goes. Next item, Spectrum Broadband. Don, want to give us a report on that?
Yeah, so this is really, I'm just really getting started on this. I mentioned last summer I was hoping to work on some grants for getting broadband into some of our community areas, and I think that we can still pursue that. Unfortunately, at the time, there just wasn't anything ready to apply for, but looking at so there are two events going on. The state has, under its economic development department, has a broadband everywhere program going on, and it's awarding grants to different vendors, Verizon, for example, and Hughes Network, and some others, to build out broadband in rural areas. And so in the most recent group of grants that was published March 1st of 2018, the town of Preble had 3 vendors that were given grants of, I think it was $196,000 to build out broadband basically in this yellow area. So these are census blocks. And so in these census blocks, there were identified as 26 properties that they were going to build broadband out for. These green areas are where past grants have provided broadband support. Now, so the state is trying to do that, and in the meantime, the state has reached an agreement with Spectrum, a consent agreement to deliver broadband to upstate New Yorkers, to more rural areas, in support of their merger with Time Warner and so on and so forth. But it's not clear that and I'm sure you saw the news that the state was going to kick Spectrum out and all of that stuff. That's because Spectrum wasn't delivering on that. So it's not clear what Spectrum has done or what we could do with the state broadband board, if you will, broadband program. But we have significant areas of the town, even with these maps and so forth, that where residents don't get broadband. And so, I think what we want to do is we want to see what we can do to deal with Spectrum directly to get them to deliver broadband, or to get grants to support that delivery. Now, I don't know if you want to hear from a couple of the residents that are impacted by this now, or if you want to wait for the public comment section.
We can probably wait till public comment.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
So I did invite a couple of folks to come in and just kind of explain what their experience is with Spectrum. But I think at this point we want to see what we can do, what leverage we might have on Spectrum to bring broadband into all of our residents, and then if there are residents in areas that Spectrum doesn't service, then that's when these other grants would pay for vendors to come in and bring the broadband. So as part of that, I'm thinking that in the May newsletter, we want to, in some fashion, conduct a survey of residents and get them to tell us if they're not getting broadband. Because frankly, I look at the data on here and it says, and when I go to the Spectrum map and so forth, it says broadband's available just about everywhere in places that I know it isn't available. And so there's a, I'm not sure if the map isn't granular enough, or if somebody's not quite telling the whole truth, or what they really mean by it. So I mean, I think that this is something that we need to pay attention to. I'm going to try and start working the Spectrum angle over the next few weeks, and I'll report back in February.
Okay.
But I mean, I think this is something that we need to pay attention to.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Don.
Yep.
Next item, you all got a handout for a resolution to collect a resolution for extension to collect sales tax to May 31st. This is an annual routine that we do with the county, and it just increases the time that we have to collect taxes. If anybody has any questions, Jane is the expert in this department. You can ask her a question if you want. Everybody understands the issue? Okay. So we need to have somebody make a resolution to do this.
I don't have a copy of it. Yeah, sorry, I'll just make the resolution. Okay, well, I'll make the resolution to extend our tax collectors' time to collect taxes until May 31st, 2019.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, then you also got another handout for a letter from Mark Helms, putting out the invitation for us to tour the jail. So if we would like to do that, we can go down as a board sometime together. Or if we can't do that, we can go individually or in groups. But if you're interested in doing that, just let me know and we can put something together. I'll give him a call.
I'd like to. I wouldn't
Okay.
mind doing that.
Okay. Next, monies received. We received $11,890.65 in mortgage tax in 2018. We received $1,771.89 from Northeast Transformers and $741.92 from USPS. And at this time, I'd like to read the appointments for 2019. And before I do that, I just want to welcome our new board member, Jim Harris, as a board member, elected board member for the town of Preble. Jim served for many years on the planning board. Did a great job with that.
Thank you.
Welcome, Jim.
Very much
We
appreciate it.
appreciate
Thank
you having us.
Good to be here.
List of criteria and appointments for 2019. town board meetings will be held throughout the year of 2019 at 7 p.m. on the second Monday of the month in the town hall of the town of Preble. Official newspaper, the Cortland Standard. Official bank, NBT Bank. Attorneys, the firm of Pomeroy, Armstrong, Casulo, and Monty. Monty's still on that? Monty's off. Okay. Don Armstrong with the town board, ZBA, and planning boards. Utility bills will be paid in advance as necessary when due date is before the town board regular meeting. Salaries, town officials, and contracts as stated in the budget of 2018 will be paid monthly, semi-monthly, quarterly, and annually. Mileage for town business outside of the town is 50 cents per mile. Review, investment and procurement policy to remain the same. Town superintendent of highways is authorized to purchase equipment, tools, implements during the year without prior approval of the town board, the amount of $2,500. Appointments, code enforcement officer Rick Fritz, who is now an employee. Deputy supervisor Donald Fisher. Deputy highway Dale Mosier. Deputy town clerk Elizabeth Pittman. Bookkeeper Gina Norris. Historian, and this is a change here. Ann Henderson is retiring as historian, and we want to welcome Jay Curry for being appointed as historian for the town. Welcome, Jay. Budget officer James Doring, registrar of vital statistics Jane Davenport, justice clerk Haley Duty Mertz, assessor William Barrett, dog control Country Acres Animal Shelter Paul Burhans and Lindsay Anderson, secretary of ZBA planning boards Sue Wright, planning board 5-year term. We want to welcome Amy Bertini, and Amy is also serving on the zoning board too. So she's doing double duty. I asked Don about the situation. He said that she is able to serve on both boards. Board of Assessment Review, Mike Hughes. Recreation Advisory Committee, Renee Compton, James Doring, Tammy Fody, Nancy Daly, and Rick Burt. And that concludes the list of criteria and appointments for 2019. At this time, I'd like to open up our meeting for public comment. Anybody who wishes to make a comment or has a question?
Yeah, you just read Paul Burhan's, he died.
He
Yeah.
passed
He
away.
passed away.
Yeah,
I knew
I
he
saw
was
that.
down at Brewster, wasn't he?
Mhm.
For a while?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for alerting me of that. So Lindsay Anderson is our sole contact for Country Acres as of right now. Okay, any questions or comments?
I just want to mention that I did get the no snowmobile signs. Jeff has got them. He's going to put them up. If you need more, we can get more from either Bobby Lieber or
Rick Bird.
Mike Dannon. And I was asked if we need to create a resolution to have it in writing that no snowmobiles are allowed there. I
On
mean,
the town park?
on the town park, even though we have signs up.
I think a resolution would be appropriate. Yeah, and to authorize posting the signs, and you're saying there's no trespassing, right?
Mhm.
Basically.
Well, I think we want to differentiate no trespassing from no snowmobile riding.
Right.
As somebody who wants to put snowshoes on and walk across the park, I would think is certainly welcome to do that.
I mean, we don't have any teeth in it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you really wanted to put something in there where someone could be ticketed and fined, we need to enact
Have
an
resolution.
ordinance or a local law. But you certainly
And the
can-
signs just have like a snowmobile with a circle with a line.
Yeah, I mean, you can certainly, that's the policy of the town. Snowmobiles are not to be on the town park, and that you're authorizing the posting of these signs.
Okay.
Again, there's,
Right. I think we can start with that. I think most people obey signs. So,
I also think, so, it's a little bit of risk management there in addition to, hey, you can't be on here, but you're trying to keep an activity off of town lands, which is not a bad thing. That's potentially dangerous under those circumstances.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I think that's fine. If you want something with some teeth in it, and maybe you want to think about that moving forward, then we ought to look at kind of like a note posting a road for no parking. Well, we've got to put some, we've got to have some consequences if they do. So it's an,
I would suggest we put the signs up and see how that goes. And if we find that,
And I mean, like Mike and I talked, and it's not really the people that are obeying the signs that are not going to not obey the signs.
Yeah.
It's two individuals, and they're both here in town, and they may
they know
abide by them or they may not, you know.
Do they know it? Yeah.
And if they know there's no consequences, then they're just going to do it anyway.
well, the other thing is if it's directed to two people, now you might be in a trespass issue or situation. If we advise them they are not to be on the property, then there would be a consequence as far as it, they would be committing trespass. So trespass can be a violation. Okay, but we would have to advise them that they do not have permission to be on the place. So you might try the signs, but
why don't we give the signs a try
maybe do something more. So I think it would be good to have a resolution, though, just
to put the signs up?
authorizing that.
Okay, Dave, you want to make the resolution?
Make a resolution that that the town can put up the signs for no snowmobiling on the park property.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, thanks, Dave. Thanks for the follow-up from last meeting. Anybody with any comments or statements they want to make? Yeah?
Hi, I'm Jan Kublik. I think some of you know me. My wife and I currently live up in Hybrid Forest, but by the end of the year, we'll be living down at Old Woods Road, just around the corner from the main body of the Rittenhouse area on Song Lake. And a couple of my soon-to-be neighbors are with me, probably known better to you. We're here to talk about broadband. Don was good enough to kind of look into it, and we're just encouraging the town to continue to look into it. I mean, broadband has gone from possibly an entertainment luxury to a necessity nearly. It allows you communications with the world. It allows for emergency services. It allows for a great many things, which is why the state and the Public Service Commission is pushing so hard to push broadband out into the places that are unserved. We couldn't see your map, but I'm sure we're part of the unserved area in Preble. Don McMaster is here tonight, and he has had some contact with Spectrum, and can tell the board what's come of that so far.
Hi, I'm Don McMasters. I live on Rittenhouse Square. How much time do I have? We bought Bob and Mary Jane Rittenhouse's place in the fall of 16, and about 2 months after that, I called to see about getting internet connected, and actually, yeah, until I got to the fourth person, and they said, "Oh no, you're not serviceable," and did a constructability survey and various other things, and it came back that they could provide broadband to us for $70,000. Well, to me. For $70,000. So
You signed up, right?
yeah,
I was going to say.
So I have it. I'm
We want his.
But, so I'm gonna abbreviate it. So this went on several times. I talked to several of the neighbors, and they had similar experiences. The only difference was the dollar value that they were told to get connected. And it's all, I think 40,000 was the least amount. Since then, last summer, a Spectrum guy was wandering around in the driveway, and my daughter came in and said, "Hey, there's some guy out here with a hard hat and vest." And I went out and talked to him, and he was actually doing like a preliminary survey of the area. And I got his card. I sent him a whole bunch of information on all the residents on the north end. Plus they're looking at, which is town of Tully has no business here, but the St. Charles and those roadways on Tully Lake. So the communication I've gotten back from them is they are tentatively moving forward with the project to try to service the whole area there. I don't know the status. Every now and then I send an email to try to get an update from a construction guy from Spectrum. He's been very responsive up until about a week ago when I sent an email. Normally I get a response in a day or two. Could be vacation this time of year, I don't know. But I do have quite a bit of additional information and background. I'd be more than willing to get
Great.
together and
Yep.
talk to you on the phone or email.
Yep.
Give you the dump on everything.
Great.
So, but it looks like there may be progress, but it could be a just an appeasement too. So I don't know where we're going with it.
Okay. Well, I have to commend Don Fisher on our board for kind of picking this project up and working with it and doing what he can to find out what we can do with this situation. So thanks, Don, for your efforts in doing this.
So I'm the third musketeer here, but if the three of us are frustrated, which we really are, we're trying to deal with Spectrum, they're not doing really well. So the problem is, those of you that know Rittenhouse Square, the cable's up on the main road. They don't want to pay to run the cable down. The state has mandated that they meet a certain number. They're abysmally away. And in the months that the three of us have been dealing with them, first of all, trying to call them is at least, you have to have at least an hour. And it's a very frustrating situation. We really need some town help here. I was under the impression that Spectrum's contract with the town was runs out this month. I may be wrong about this, but if that's the case, that would give the town more leverage. I think they ought to tell the town, where are the homes in your town that we're not servicing, and this is when we're going to turn them on. That's what we'd ask for. A week does not go by that I don't get a call or a letter asking me why I haven't signed up for their cable when they won't run the cable. We could go on for hours. It's been that frustrating. And we're not the only place in the town. And I bet that their map is made up. That would be my expectation from how we've dealt with them. So we need some help. I'm glad Don's looking at it. And if we can give more information or assist, let us know, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Jim, could I just add?
Yes, John, go ahead.
The reason that Joe's referencing our thought that the contract was up for renewal is that it was 10-year contract approved January 12th, I guess, 2009. Approved a little bit later than that at the PSC, but so we were kind of thinking that they were under the gun. I got a little body language from Don that suggests that they're not exactly banging his door down to get a renewal contract.
News to me. Yeah, right.
Okay, that's why we thought that it was a good time to talk to them.
I'll certainly pull my file, but I'm going to have to wipe the dust off it, I think, when I pull it.
How many years contract is that? 5 years?
I don't know.
10 years or something?
I think it's a 10-year contract, and it was 2009. It was a non-exclusive franchise, but it's got a most favored vendor clause in it that says if you want to let somebody else in, you can't let them in under any better terms. Right. Which is complicated because, again, Don's comment, how much time do you have? They will extend service anywhere in the town. So be careful of just saying, why don't you extend? The question is whether or not they have to do so at standard rates or whether they can charge the people benefited the cost of putting it in. And that's driven by a formula that is pretty complicated. The idea was that you're going to put initial cable service in when they first got the franchise, and there's an average per mile or per customer cost for that. And they, after that, should give everybody that they can within a margin of that original cost of installation cable. And if it's too much more than that, then they can start talking to you about how much you have to pay, because the initial people got cable service for just a subscriber fee. They didn't pay a capital cost to defray their costs. So that's the game. Sure, they'll put cable all over the town of Preble. It's a question of how much they're going to charge the residents to do so. So,
Thanks, John.
My son, he lives up on Searles Road, and he did not have, before he bought the house, he called and they said, yes, you have service. And he put a purchase offer on. Then he finds out Spectrum didn't come that far. It was farther down the road. And they said, okay, if you send us $10,000, we'll bring it up to your house. So he sent $10,000 and they held on to the check probably a month. Then, in the meantime, I called Schumer's office, and Schumer's office said, no, don't have him pay. And I said, he already did. So they got a hold of Spectrum, and Tom got his check back. And they installed it maybe a month or two after.
Plus they have the Better Business Bureau too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, called Better Business Bureau, and they had it in.
They run the cable all from 13 all the way up there. They didn't pay back, they didn't up his bill or anything. So,
Are you on a first name basis with our senator? Maybe she's the lady should be calling.
Actually, he gave us the name of somebody in Albany that really cut through one problem we had. Spectrum shut off my landline. And so Verizon was saying it's Spectrum's fault. And Spectrum was saying it's Verizon's. I sent down that woman's name. She was very helpful. But the state is all over Spectrum. They fined them $2 million because they're not hooking up. So I think we're at a point where they're vulnerable and the town can push it a little.
Don can look into the contract.
I was just gonna say, we've been in the town for, I don't know, since 2000, I guess it's 19 years now. And the same things happened with us. I mean, I think Dave, you
I got
have it.
Yep.
I don't, I'm just a little ways up at Tisco Valley Road. And when I've asked, I'm constantly told, oh, you have it, but I don't. It goes up around Masters and then it comes down the other side and then it goes up the valley. I know part of Wright Road doesn't have it as well,
Right.
and it's very frustrating when you call and they say you do and you don't. And the amount of money is phenomenal for what they want you to run a line. And we've also had people walking on the property and around checking things out as well.
Anybody else?
So I think Renee, your area is part of that was covered by the last round of grants.
Yeah, well.
Well, Spectrum isn't going to service you though. It'll be a different company.
Well, nobody is right now.
Right.
Well, no, we have no internet. My phone is my friend.
We're in the same boat.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Comment? Statement? Okay. Need a motion to pay the general fund vouchers.
Make a motion to pay general fund vouchers abstracts number 1, numbers 1 through 22, totaling $20,498.52.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Need a motion to pay the highway fund vouchers.
I'll make a motion to pay the highway fund vouchers abstract 1, numbers 1 to 9, totaling $7,980.72.
Jim, you want to say?
Oh, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Need a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
So now, yeah, so down there on the red button.
Are they?
Click the left.
Don't get up.